everyone, it's Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, and we're here at Appian World 2018 at the Fontainebleau Hotel, Miami Beach, Florida. Our guest right now is Cate McConnell of Appian. Cate, I'm not even going to attempt your title. It's global.
Hi everyone, I'm Cate McConnell. I'm the global industry leader for healthcare payers, which is health plans in a nutshell, at Appian Corporation. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Cate. So, Cate, you know, Appian World has been a great conference, and we clearly see the sectorization, if you will, of the customer base. We had a chance earlier to speak to some of the folks from the financial industry. We've spoken to some government folks, and now with healthcare. Now, without naming names, Appian has a pretty good roster of some of the leading healthcare providers.
And payers, absolutely. So for your audience, we work with both providers and payers. So providers are your doctors and your hospitals, anyone who gives care, which is obviously an area we're all concerned about. And then payers are the folks who pay the bills, and that could be government entities or they could be commercial entities in many countries and in the US. So my job is working with our commercial payers to help them understand how Appian can meet their needs and solve their business problems.
Great. And you know, you don't get a roster of customers such as you have within this sector. There's, you know, by accident, right? There's got to be something that's driving it. What would you say if you had to put your finger on one or two things? What are the one or two biggest reasons why Appian has had the success it has had in this particular sector?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. That's a great question. I think Appian is having success in healthcare because we've hit an inflection point in the industry where all of the old approaches that we've been trying are not working. The problems are so huge. The money at stake is so large that we really have to take different approaches. And we've seen widespread failures of large software transformational implementations at many of our clients, and initially they're skeptical when they go to work with Appian. And I think the first 3-month project where they actually see applications being built from their specifications right in front of their eyes convinces them. So it's the speed, the agility, and the ability to control something and get a solution that is tailored for you, rather than having a vendor's solution somehow being backward fit to what you need.
Yep. And you just hit on something that is really goes to the heart of DevOps, which is you can't boil the ocean, right? You're not going to come into a large enterprise, change the culture, change the business processes, change the infrastructure, you know, at the snap of a finger. You need to do this it's kind of a Missouri thing, right? Show me. And you need to do that, right? So within what's the most common first project? You know, that first project.
The most common first project.
Cutting your teeth on.
I'd say there's like, in the top 3, there's 5 common first projects, right? So we look for places where there's a lot of manual processes, there's a lot of human frustration, right? You have a lot of people doing things on paper, or they have what I call the homegrown system of Access database, plus Outlook, email, workflows, and maybe some Excel spreadsheets thrown in there. And I ask them, usually, well, who runs this system? And if they give me 1 or 2 names, I know they're in trouble. Right. Because when those 1 or 2 people are on vacation, the process doesn't run, the report doesn't get out, and that's an enterprise is depending on something that's really not a system. So we say to them, what if we built a system to do, I'll give you just a couple of examples in healthcare payer. What if we built a system to do your complaints and appeals process completely automated, got it out of email? Would you be interested in that? And they said, yeah, of course. But nobody's been able to do that for us. There's no software in the market that does what we need it to do. Well, let us try. Right? So one customer, we kicked off a project this year, the end of January. They just went live with their complaint and appeal application last week.
Really?
Okay, completely functional, stood up, and going. That's a testament to the strength.
Yeah.
So I'll give you one other sample application in the payer space. Payers are tremendously concerned today about their reputation with the provider community. Do doctors like to do business with us? Will they be in our network? Will they service our customers for a reasonable price? So they're going out of their way to make a more user-friendly experience for the providers. And one of the first encounters a provider has with a health plan is, how do I get signed up to be in your network? I have to turn over documentation, my licenses, my credentials. That's tremendously a paper process in many, many health plans today. So one of our customers, that was the first foothold, is a provider credentialing system for them, completely automated. In fact, they've got it worked out now to where they have ruggedized laptops for their field force, their agents who sign up providers to go out to the field, collect all of the documentation, update the databases, and it all auto-feeds to the back-end databases in the evening feed. So you can imagine a provider says, okay, you'll come out once, I'll give you everything you need, and then we'll be done, right? Eliminate the letters back and forth, the paper flow, the phone calls.
And just lets them provide healthcare instead of trying to be in the back end of the business.
Right. And remember, you always follow the money in any business, right? You know that, Alan? So in the payer world, it's controlling the medical spend, and for the provider, it's controlling their billable hours. How would I rather spend my billable hours in the office, with a payer doing documentation or with a patient, who I can service?
And it's the patient, because at the end of the day, it's also about healthcare.
Right.
This isn't widgets we're selling. It's,
Yeah, for everyone in healthcare administration, I would say we all have a pretty strong sense of mission that what we do really impacts people's lives. And if you can make healthcare more affordable and accessible to people by bringing technology to the service of the business, that's going to be a win for everyone. I mean, and we really, quite frankly, to address the needs in healthcare, we're going to need widespread digital transformation.
Amen.
We can't keep going the way we're going.
That doesn't work. It's interesting, though. We hear so much in the healthcare industry, with HIPAA, portability, electronic documents, electronic medical records. The fact that so much of the back end between the payer and healthcare provider is still spreadsheets and frankly, paper. Right. This is a problem screaming, it seems, for a solution.
It is a problem screaming for a solution, and I would caution folks who look at healthcare and say, boy, that is pretty messed up. Can't just Apple or Google or Microsoft come in and fix it, right? And we're going to see. Amazon is going to step in an alliance with Berkshire Hathaway and JP Morgan, obviously. Everyone's eager to see what they're going to do in the space, but everyone who has entered has quickly found out it's a lot more complicated than they reckoned on, right? So what I think we really need is the new thinking and approaches that come from outside the industry, the openness to new ideas that we historically have not always had in healthcare, along with the deep subject matter knowledge of the business people and the technical people who are in the field now. But you're right, any outsider who looks out and says, back in a few years ago when there was a big federal push to get meaningful use of electronic health records, right? So we didn't set any standards. We thought the open market would address it. So what did we get? We got north of 20 different standards on electronic medical records. Right, and none of them speak to each other. Now that's being worked on and addressed, but I think we need a combination of a lot of sophisticated approaches. Pure free market's not going to do it in technology for this space.
No, and as much as we would love, especially in the technology industry, that we'll solve everything with tech. You do probably need a little regulation, a little standardization, a little. It just has to work that way.
Right.
Let's flip around here to Appian World, though, if we can,
absolutely.
if you don't mind. So there was a partnership announcement here.
Absolutely. We work with partners.
Well, there was several partnership announcements,
partnership
But
announcements.
the one in particular around healthcare.
Right. The one in particular I'm excited about is with Luxoft, which is a global partner of ours, very prominent in pharmaceuticals. And this spring we decided to work together in healthcare. So they actually developed 2 applications to bring specifically to Appian World for the payer space. One of them we're really excited about. It's a partnership with them to build on Appian a claims accumulator using the blockchain as the back-end accounting standard. So, I'll get healthcare nerdy on you there for a second. So, in today's sophisticated medical spend world, people have a deductible and they have a certain amount of money they have to spend out of pocket before the health plan really kicks in and the full benefits begin taking over. Well, typically what they call the accumulator, the record of how much you've spent against your deductible, is out of date, sometimes by as much as 2 weeks, depending on how quickly claims get processed. Well, you can imagine if you're in a hospital,
2 weeks is a long time.
2 weeks is a very long time. Or if you're having surgery, 2 weeks is a very long time. And so the spend very quickly gets out of sync between many different sources of data, right? Pharmacy, hospital, ambulatory provider. What Luxoft has done is taken Appian and built a real-time claims accumulator, essentially to take all kinds of incoming data feeds and manage that total almost in real time, which is a huge step forward. And we wanted to take, I'll take a minute on blockchain. So we've been looking at blockchain in healthcare just like every other industry has, and we think there's a number of different use cases for it. It's really in the hype cycle right now. My personal feeling about blockchain is it's going to be embedded into many applications as the back end. And it'll be part of the plumbing of technical and digital applications
frankly,
that we have, right? It won't be something that people debate we don't debate whether or not to use HTML anymore, right?
Well, yeah.
or other technology
No, I get
standards
it.
that power our common applications, right? I think blockchain will pretty quickly in the next few years settle down, become grown up, become curated, and people will figure out a way to manage some of the aspects of it that give us pause today.
Right. From your mouth to God's ears, Kate.
I hope so.
I mean, coming from the security world, blockchain is very buzzy right now.
Right.
And I've seen this before, unfortunately, and so I'm going to, again, show me, we'll see how that plays out. But it's certainly exciting, and what's nice about this is that we're seeing real world application, as you say, maybe a mature view of how to integrate blockchain with its assets, not just because it's the shiny new trinket that we want to latch onto.
Right. It does some things for us, right? We're not going to store data on the blockchain. That would be ridiculous. But knowing who updated what transaction when would be a huge step forward for us.
Sure.
And,
So, again, turning to Appian World, quite a number of your customers are here?
Quite a number of our customers are here. In fact, for the first time, we had 2 main stage presentations in healthcare. So, so yesterday we had 2 gentlemen from HCSC talking about the digital transformation that they're doing with Appian. Without going into any details, they're building some pretty exciting applications on that. As well as this morning, we had Phil Merrill, the CIO of AIM Specialty Health, who laid out a really broad agenda of what he is doing with Appian and his organization.
I spend a lot of time traveling around the world to conferences, speaking to companies. I'm always amazed at the disparity between, you want to call them leaders, first adopters, whatever you want, but there are so many companies. I'll give you, for instance, I was at a security conference last week, and I saw a presentation by a guy from the Aetna security team.
Right.
And, but working in DevSecOps, AppSec, and the whole, the rest of the world's here, and they seem to be here. It's the same thing in healthcare, and we see it here. You get, a CIO like this who comes up there and kind of lays out the vision, and you say to yourself, my goodness, what about the rest of the, how do they catch up? When leaders lead like that, it's
when leaders lead and they have the right technologies behind them, then there's no stopping them. And we need, quite frankly, in healthcare, we need more people like Phil Merrill and others who are brave enough to say, I'm going to put together the right group of solutions to
or at
solve
least
my
I'm going to
problems.
try,
Yeah, I'm
right?
going to try it.
And I'm going to think out of the box. I'm going to, utilize new technologies.
Now, I'll challenge you. You know, Appian, we have been around since 1999, so we're
Yep.
not exactly a new or emerging technology. The U.S. federal government uses us for many mission-critical applications where we have the highest security standards. Our cloud product is HIPAA certified.
Yep.
You know, we are enterprise ready, and we're
Right.
ready
It's not-
to supply
the
your mission.
risk isn't there.
Yeah, this is not a risky product.
Right.
This is an established product that is not as well known in all industries as it should be. And so for some people, I would say it's not a technical risk to buy Appian, it's more maybe of a career or a reputation
Right.
risk, and we're working to address that in forums like Appian World and by talking to folks like yourself
No, no,
to spread the word
absolutely.
that, you know, try a small project, give us your thorniest problem, give us an annoying problem that people could keep complaining to the CIO about. Let us see what we can do with it, with your folks, obviously in a true DevOps, agile way.
Sure.
Let's see how we can address it.
You know, it's an interesting thing, Kate. Part of what DevOps has wrought in the market is, we've both been in the IT world a while, right? There was a time where the saying was, no one ever gets fired for buying IBM, right? And the idea of having one throat to choke, and so you want one of these mega providers who soup to nuts everything. But with DevOps, and Agile and Lean and these new ways of looking at things, I think that's passed a bit, right? People want, what's the best solution for my problem here?
Right.
I'm not going to use it because I'm using that same company over there somewhere.
And I think you want the simplest and most cost-effective way to
Yep.
get there, right? And I would represent to you, you know, you can find a lot of vendors who will make it very complicated for you to solve a problem, and probably fairly expensive. We can make it simple. Matt Calkins, when he talked from the main stage, he talked about not being satisfied with the status quo of every year making it simpler to develop on our software, and we're going to deliver on that promise. I think people have seen the benefit in consumer goods of simple technology. You know, the iPhone, the iPad, things that you can't break, but they work every time. And I would say, I think Appian is that in your enterprise software world.
It's a great way of thinking about it. Yeah. Well, Kate, we're just about out of time here. First of all, thanks for spending a couple minutes with us.
Thank you.
Good luck
Thank you
this
so
upcoming
much.
year with Appian and the
Thank
healthcare vertical, and we look forward to hearing more about it. We'll be watching the blockchain stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully we'll have even more exciting news for next year, and hope to see you at Appian World 19.
19. Well, I'm waiting to find out where it is.
We are all waiting.
Coming soon. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com here at Appian World 2018 in Miami Beach, Florida. Have a great day, everyone.